Hey everyone, welcome to the PFF Betting Podcast. I am your host, Kendall Valenzuela, joined as always by Ben Brown, data scientist at PFF. And today we are going to take you through Sunday's Week 14 slate and give our takeaways and, of course, look ahead to our best bets for tonight's Monday night football matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and Arizona Cardinals. So let's get into it. Football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game, but with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's just that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet $1 on any team to score and win $100 in free bets if they score. You score with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Ben, it was a rough Sunday, a little bit of a rough Sunday for us. We've been doing this together now and we hold ourselves accountable. So I feel like we just have to open with that. It was a little bit rough.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't great. I would say you didn't initially give us credit for some of our quarterback rushing props that we talked about, which is like the lifeline of this podcast. And we mentioned 4 of them: Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Davis Mills, which was both of our favorites, which I think if we were going to do a lock of the week segment, Davis Mills over 4.5 rushing yards would have been it. That one definitely hit. And Tom Brady, who had probably the most rushing yards he's ever had in a game. That one also hit. So we went 3 for 4 on quarterback rushing props, 2 and 4 on other props. I take full responsibility for that. I do think like the interceptions, obviously with Taylor Heineke, Derek Carr, both of those, I guess especially the Derek Carr one was kind of like one of those random fluky plays that wasn't even a turnover-worthy play. So maybe that was a decent process, but those plays didn't break right for us. Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 passing touchdowns. That didn't break right for us either, even though they put up 48 points or something like that, 3 rushing touchdowns. So I take responsibility, but I feel like we were very close to having it be like an 8-1 day or something like that.
That's true. Well. Okay. So I'll give us a little credit. I'll give you credit for the quarterback rushing props because like long live, maybe that's what we just need this whole podcast to be is just, let's just break down every quarterback rushing prop and then call it a day. It'll be fine. But no, it was a weird Sunday. I mean, the first slate, I mean, you were looking at the first slate and thinking it was going to be blowouts the whole time.
Right.
But it ended up being kind of okay. I mean, the Chiefs blew, 48-9 against the Raiders. The Seahawks, thank you very much. We will always root for the Seahawks on this podcast now, but they found a little spark, even though it was the Houston Texans. And then the Saints beat the Jaguars 30-9. Washington football team kind of came back against the Cowboys, but lost 27-20. I want to know what your biggest takeaway from the Week 14 slate was, Ben.
Yeah, definitely. I do think, obviously the game of the week that everyone kind of had circled, Bills, Buccaneers. Buccaneers started off really well, right? I think it was 24-3 kind of heading into halftime. And, the Bills just didn't look right offensively whatsoever. But there seems to be something almost brewing a little bit under the surface, I would say, especially with Sean McDermott. Hasn't been really good in his in-game decision-making. That 4th and 3 punt kind of toward the end of the third quarter. I thought they essentially punted the game away at that stage. Again, they were able to, actually get 3 stops on Tom Brady and get the ball back and still score enough to kind of push that game into overtime. But the decision-making is kind of bad. I do think, Josh Allen seems to be relying maybe too much on his rushing ability. Doesn't really have the same average depth of target that he had last year. I did really want to see Stephon Diggs get involved this game. He was, had a pretty quiet seven reception for 74 yards receiving game. So I don't know. I don't think that they are like the one or two best teams in the AFC right now. And I think that's probably my main takeaway, is that I'm finally ready to probably don't necessarily put the nail in the coffin on the Bills, but I'm definitely not buying into them as a legitimate contender here, even though there's not very many good teams here in the AFC whatsoever.
Yeah. And Diggs did hit his over receptions.
Did it his over receptions? Thank you for that.
Yes.
Barely. It was a sweat, but
it was a sweat. Right? It was a sweat. Okay. So then my question to that is, what is their ceiling to you then?
Yeah, I mean, I think a division round loss basically is kind of what it looks like to me. I don't think they are on the verge of the Super Bowl like I think everyone kind of projected them to be in the offseason. I do think the Chiefs are definitely right there. Maybe it's the Patriots as well, but I think whatever team actually does emerge and win that AFC North is obviously going to be the challenger, and a team that I think is better than the Buffalo Bills. So I'm just not buying into the offense, which is kind of interesting, and Sean McDermott in general. So we'll see how things change, but I think it's going to be a dark rest of the season here for the Buffalo Bills. So
yeah, there's 4 games left, and you talking about offensive woes, like I think my takeaway was about the Dallas Cowboys. And of course they I want to say squeaked out a win against the Washington football team. But to me, I don't think that team can be considered a contender until they figure out their offense, right? Dak Prescott, I believe, had 2 interceptions in that game. So it wasn't pretty. And to me, that defense carried the team. Right, Ben? Yeah. I mean, Randy Gregory and Micah Parsons, like, let's just throw him out there. Obviously, defensive rookie of the year, but now people are saying, Sam Monson's like, he needs to be in talks for defensive player of the year. You think Myles Garrett has that locked up, or, TJ Watt, but it was a big game, and they can't be contenders in that offense because with the offense that they're running now, because the running game was fine, but they were obviously missing Tony Pollard, and they need to find a rhythm. And I think in the last 4 games, that's what they need to do, because you can't go into the playoffs playing like they're playing. They had 6 red zone trips and only got a touchdown out of it. Right, so you can't play like that and expect to contend in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. So, Dak Prescott, 22 of 39 completions, 5.4 yards per attempt, sacked 4 times, did have the 2 interceptions, one obviously resulting in a pick 6. So yeah, he obviously is the focal point right now. Yeah. Still hasn't really looked like he's kind of returned from that injury in week 9. So I definitely agree with you. I think, the defense is obviously, defense is obviously great. That's a good thing to see. Obviously, we didn't expect that in the offseason, but if they can't return to kind of some of their early season performance in the offenses, I definitely agree with you. I don't think they are, in that upper echelon of NFC teams that we have competing here every Sunday. So I agree with that. I think that is a pretty solid takeaway for sure. So
I feel like we're getting to the end of, we're at the tail end of the season. Obviously, there's 4 games left, and I feel like these last 4 weeks are going to really weed out, because it's been a weird season. I mean, you look at the playoff pictures when they throw them up on TV, and basically everyone's a contender right now. And I feel like in these last few weeks, we're really going to see that, whittled down to who these teams really are and who can make it in the playoffs.
Definitely. I agree 100%. It is going to be interesting the last 4 weeks of the season. So
it'll be messy.
It'd be messy to say the least, right? So
yeah, it will be. All right, well, let's dive into then our Monday Night Football props. Let's wrap up week 14. It should be a good game to wrap up with, though. Rams Cardinals on Monday night. Cardinals are at home. The Rams are underdogs for only the 2nd time this season. So before we dive into our best bets, Ben, I want you to set the stage for us. Let us know what you think your impression of this game is going to be like.
Yeah, definitely. So Cardinals 4th overall team in our ELO rankings. Rams have slipped down to 9th overall, so still sit inside that top 10 team, not necessarily where they once were, of course, obviously based on some of the performances of Matt Stafford in general. I kind of like the Arizona Cardinals here at -2.5. Anything before a field goal differential. I know that's not like a recommended play from Greenline, and it is. Last week I think we really wanted to see, is Kyler Murray back? Is DeAndre Hopkins back? Are those guys going to be productive offensively? They did rely heavily on their defense. We did see Kyler Murray rushing around a little bit, but I think this is going to be the spot where we can really judge whether they are, the team that we saw early on in the season, and if they are legitimate Super Bowl contenders probably coming out here in the NFC. So I'm excited for it. I am kind of buying into, the Cardinals having a quality performance here against the Rams. Maybe it's more so the fact that I don't really buy into the Rams at this stage in the game, but I think the Cardinals are the play. I also think the under is probably the play, 51.5 points. Obviously both defenses have been extraordinary basically throughout the whole 2021 season. Rams number one defense ranking. I think they're going to have to keep the Rams in it if they are actually probably going to win outright or cover against the Cardinals. So I expect a lower scoring game, probably see the Cardinals, separate after halftime. And I think that's probably where, they're going to end up winning this matchup here. So,
all right. I like it. Well, let's dive into it. You like DeAndre Hopkins under 58.5 receiving yards. You don't think the connection's going to be there? You think the Rams are going to shut him down? I'm curious as to what direction you're going with that one.
Yeah, definitely. We have seen Kyler Murray, kind of distribute the football to a wide range of targets. Of course, they have Zach Ertz in the fold now. He was the guy that, wasn't necessarily there when both DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray were in the lineup early on in the season. Christian Kirk's obviously taken a little bit more of a step forward. Rondell Moore, AJ Green. So I just don't think he's going to be as heavily involved. I do think he will see, the shadow coverage from Jalen Ramsey. Hasn't had success against Jalen Ramsey in the past. Obviously, we don't rest too much on some of those smaller sample size type situations, but they have played, 10 games together. So I do think it's, at least a worthy comparison to see how he's performed previously. Absolutely. Hasn't done really well. So lower target share, really tough match. But I think that the Cardinals are going to have to win elsewhere. So I do think DeAndre Hopkins under 58.5 receiving yards is one of the best player props we can bet here on Monday for sure.
I like it. All right. We'll sweat that one out. That one, just the unders. They're rough. They're rough a lot of the times, but I agree with you. I think DeAndre Hopkins, especially in that matchup with Jalen Ramsey, that's going to be, first of all, a treat to watch. So it'll be fun. The next one, I think everyone just needs to sit back and buckle up because we've got 3 for Cooper. We love Cooper Kupp in this game. The first one that I want to touch on though is Cooper Kupp over 90.5 receiving yards.
Right.
So we like it and we're taking the over, obviously. Coop has covered his receiving yards prop. I read this in your article, 9 of 12 games this season, and he's recorded at least 94 receiving yards in 10 of 12, including in each of his last 7 games in a row. So, I mean, why are you going to cut off a good thing, right? You just got to keep rolling with them.
Just keep rolling with it. Go back to the cookie jar because it's, going to continue to happen. Obviously, nobody besides Devontae Adams is even close to him from like a target share perspective, targets per route run. He's just been, a league winner from a fantasy perspective. I don't think that stops here on Monday night. I'm not really buying into, Odell Beckham Jr. potentially playing a really significant role. We like Tyler Higbee to go under his receptions as well. So I just think that means, more opportunity for Cooper Kupp to probably go over. I think if I was, only going to bet one of these options, I know you said we like all 3, but I do really like Cooper Kupp to go over 7.5 receptions. Our player props tool is showing that as almost a 20.8% edge right now. If that would have been available when I first wrote, the Monday Night Football written content piece, I do think I would have definitely gone with that as opposed to his receiving yards, but I'd like all 3. I think he's going to go, it's going to be another vintage Cooper Kupp performance, 10 receptions, 110 yards and a touchdown. I think, that's going to be the only way besides defensively how, the Rams keep pace here. Cause I don't really have too much faith in anybody else. Offensively, Sonny Michel is going to get the bulk of the carries. Odell Beckham Jr. is still kind of getting broken into this passing game. So it's Cooper Kupp or bust basically for me on Monday night. And I like all 3 of them, to be honest with you. What do you got? What do you got for his anytime, I guess?
I've got him. Well, I got him as an anytime because I want to go the easier route, right? I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be involved. That's a tough matchup, though. You like Zach Ertz, but we'll talk about him in a few minutes here about why you're kind of fading him a little bit, especially with Kyler Murray being back. So I feel like Kupp is the easy answer. Obviously, OBJ scored last week. He did his little revival celebration from Fortnite. That was hilarious. But I just want to go an easy route. And since we're so high on Cooper Kupp all over with his receiving yards and receptions, I think it's a good place to go because he also, with our cornerback wide receiver matchup chart, he has an excellent matchup. And you guys can find that on PFF.com. But he has an excellent matchup rating of 92.1. And it's looking like Byron Murphy Jr. is going to be lining up across from Kupp on 61% of the snaps on Monday. And that's bad news for Murphy Jr. It's not going to be fun for him. And I think when they are lining up across from each other, he is going to at least sneak in there for one, maybe even two, because that's the connection that they have right now is like unparalleled.
Right. I would agree with you. Yeah, basically the only other one that kind of comes to mind is, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. Obviously that is like the one, quarterback to wide receiver connection that we have in the NFL so far. And I think, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford kind of are playing at a very similar level here in 2021. So I buy into it. He's getting the looks basically at every depth of the field. I think he easily is going to be the look in the end zone, red zone area as well. So I'm on board with it. I'm sprinkling it in. I'm sprinkling in all three. Maybe just the same game parlay of just those three is like the best option.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, okay, Kupp over 90.5 receiving yards, Kupp over 7.5 receptions, and then anytime. I feel like that's a beautiful parlay waiting to happen. So we're just going to be watching him all game. So it's fine. But someone we did talk about that you're kind of maybe fading a little bit is Ertz. He's had an incredible time since being traded to the Cardinals, right? Before week 7. Right. He played at 72.6% of offensive snaps for the Cardinals, running a route on 74.7% of dropbacks. But Ben, you did see a trend happen when Kyler came back from his injury.
Yeah, definitely. So he's basically, had like 4 or 5% of his target share drop off from when Kyler Murray has started playing, in those 3-game stretch that he has been involved. So the fact that, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be back as well. Kyler Murray is obviously back. I think Zach Ertz and him as kind of the focal point of the Cardinals pass catching game is just not going to happen whatsoever. So the fact that he's at his highest receiving yardage number of the 2021 season, I think it's a spot that you can, safely fade Zach Ertz a little bit here. I do think there's probably just, he's going to be involved. He's definitely going to be a key part of this offense going forward. But I think tonight, or I think, Monday night here, it's probably going to take a backseat to hopefully some of those guys on the outside, like AJ Green, Christian Kirk, maybe a little bit of Rondale Moore to help my fantasy prospects and stuff like that. And it does sound like we're going to have Chase Edmonds back. He adds an element, out of the backfield as that kind of like receiving down back in this offense. So there's just a lot of mouths to feed. And I do think Zach Ertz being the new guy is not going to help him here on Monday Night Football. So
they have so many weapons. I mean, just you naming them off right now is like, wow, how, like, I don't know why, I guess I can ask you this question. Like, do you believe? It's weird to me because they've had obviously a great record. They've won convincingly. They have depth because Kyler Murray was gone for a few weeks and they still won without him. Like, how far do you see this team going? Because I don't know why I'm still not on board with them to, like, everyone's saying Super Bowl, maybe Super Bowl. And I just can't I don't know why, Ben. Just convince me to get on that train with you.
I don't know if I can get on board with it either, though, right? I mean, so right now we have them as the second most likely team to win the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Obviously, we're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, number one. Again, these are before week 14 numbers. We have Arizona Cardinals at around 11% chance of winning the Super Bowl. In our latest simulation, basically the same percentage chance as the Green Bay Packers. I don't know. I think, those two teams above them, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, you want to see Kyler Murray at least beat one of those guys when it actually matters, when it's a winner go home match, before you really want to say, oh yeah, I would totally put Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals as the best option to make it out of the NFC, right? I just think it's something where he kind of needs to prove his worth. I think Cliff Kingsbury probably needs to prove something as well, especially with how, their season ended last year. So in saying that, I just think even though Kyler Murray was probably playing at an MVP level before his injury, he still needs to beat one of these guys when it really matters in a winner go home spot in order to actually say the Cardinals are the team to beat in the NFC. And until they do that, I think there's always going to be question marks and doubts right now. So.
And you don't think, I mean, tomorrow's game, because you're not really on board with the Rams either. So you can't you cannot watch on Monday tonight and say, oh, if they beat this Rams team, then that's it. I'm all aboard the Red Sea. Like, I'm good to go. Right.
Yeah. I would not say that. I mean, I think, the three best quarterbacks in the NFL or NFC right now, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. And then I think it's kind of, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott in that boat. I would like to see them beat them, but I think it's a question that's, not really going to be answered. I know it's a cop out, but I don't really think it's a question that's going to be answered until playoff time. So.
when we come back to this podcast
exactly.
and revisit and say, oh yeah,
we told you so. We told you, right?
Essentially. Can we talk about Tom Brady for a second? Is he not insane? What were your futures before? What was your futures for MVP? I know I wasn't with you before, but did you have any that you kind of want to brag about right now? Because you say Tom Brady, I'm going to be really happy for you.
I honestly don't really bet some of those, like, Timo Risky does like the article on MVP category. I tend to like not really gravitate towards those markets for a couple reasons, mainly because I don't really like to tie up, a ton of money in futures if I don't have to. And the fact that it's
wait 8 months
I don't really want to wait 8 months for a payout. And then I also don't really want to have it come down to like, beat writers and those sorts of people's opinions on a certain player. And I feel like a lot of it's kind of a popularity contest. So I think I have, much better odds and likelihood of modeling things that I can actually have, at least not control over, but at least have like a more defined space and outcome than what, like the MVP and those sorts of things. So anytime I bet them, it's probably just for fun. More so than anything else. And I'd have to go back and see what Eric Eager actually bet for us. I'm sure he bet a couple of them because he always does. But I usually leave those things in his department. I try and grind out some of the other things that we need to take advantage of here.
You could have lied right now. You could have said, "Oh yeah, I bet Micah Parsons defensive rookie of the year. I bet Mac Jones offensive rookie of the year, and I bet Tom Brady MVP." And I would have just believed you, Ben. I really would have, because
I will say on the Mac Jones thing, I did bet Mac Jones to start week 1 in New England shortly after the draft at like plus 500 odds. That was one of my better bets of the offseason. I did convince Eric to do that on the PFF betting podcast. I think that was a pretty decent bet when we talked about it in the offseason. So that was a spot that I like for Mac Jones, but I don't have any offensive rookie of the year futures here pending or anything like that.
Nothing pending. That's fine. So to wrap it all up with a bow, what do you think this Monday night game, what do you think the final is?
I'm going to say 24-14 Cardinals is what I'm going to put it at. A little low scoring, not a ton of offense, unfortunately. Hopefully, all the Rams offense comes from our boy Cooper Kupp. And we see probably spread out distribution of football happening on the Cardinals side. And, takeaway is probably going to be, they are definitely the team for sure. Obviously they already are the team in, the NFC West, but I think that this could be maybe a little bit of like a change in the guard, that they're going to be, that number one expected team here for the foreseeable future, not just this year as well. So,
all right. I'll go. I think the Cardinals lose. I don't know why. It's only because I really don't believe in them right now anyway. So I hope they prove me wrong, because then I will be happy with them. But Ben, thank you so much. As always, everyone, thank you so much for listening, and good luck.